Here with my mentor Jeff again. Taxi Cab Confessions Part 2. Here with my mentor Jeff again. Taxi Cab Confessions Part 2. Yesterday was Part 1.
That's right.
So today, what's the game plan today, Jeff?
So today we're going to interview Frank Shankowitz, who is the founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. A tremendous story, a world-class organization that served over 450,000 children who have, for any number of reasons, some sort of life-threatening illness or something that would cut their life short. And so Frank Shankowitz is the top of the agenda today, and this interview was arranged by this guy right here because he reached out to Frank and Frank's assistant and made it happen, got the meeting. And so we're going over to One United Nations Plaza in New York City.
Since we have some time, Jeff, I think this is kind of like a cool show for this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, I want to ask you a question on marriage and success, goals, all that good stuff, okay? So I'm married, you're married.
Yep.
You've been married a lot longer,
Yep.
and you have a successful marriage with 7 kids, okay? So what would you say on marriage, the key on marriage and success? How can they relate together?
Well, the first thing I would say is that marriage for me is probably the most important part of being successful, because if you don't have a successful marriage, you can make all the money in the world and your house will be torn in half. So first, recognizing that marriage is important. A lot of people don't teach marriage, right? That's not what we're seeing on TV. Oh, so-and-so is being honored today because of their successful marriage, right, or because of the great parenting that they've done. So you gotta recognize that marriage is kind of an undergirding, kind of the foundation structure of the family unit. And the family unit is the foundation of success in this country and any other country. And secondly, once we recognize that marriage is the foundation, the cornerstone of success, you recognize that there's no way you're going to go through 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 or 30 years of marriage without offenses. There's going to be offenses. People are going to be offended. He's going to be offended about something. She's going to be offended about something. And to try to avoid those offenses is impossible. They're going to happen. But what's the plan? God's plan for offenses is forgiveness. So if we recognize we can get through offenses because of forgiveness, but they're going to happen, so it's okay. So people a lot of times think if they're fighting, especially newly married couples, oh, we had our first fight. Mm-hmm. You know, fighting is, as my wife always says, Princess Jessica, fighting is communication. Where you want to really kind of open your eyes and say something's wrong is if there's no communication whatsoever. So fighting is a form of communication. It's one party saying to the other party, hey, this falls below whatever standard we've set in our marriage, and as a result, there needs to be a change happening. That's okay. Both parties in the marriage ought to have the opportunity to say that. But if you're just going around offended all the time and there's no forgiveness, there's no clearing of the relationship, then it builds up, it builds into tension, and sometimes that tension can be just catastrophic to the marriage. So the only rule that Jessica and I have, we have a value and we have a philosophy that says that success monetarily comes from being part of a successful community. Being part of a successful community means you have a strong family foundation. Strong family foundation means you have a strong marriage foundation. Yep. And so that's kind of the cornerstone. That's the value. And then the only rule that Jessica and I have is you don't go to bed mad, ever. If you got an offense that's bothering you, something that's eating at you and making one party or the other party upset, you got to clean it up before you go to bed. The Bible says, do not let the sun go down, S-U-N, do not let the sun go down on your wrath or on your anger. And I think that's a great rule. That's the rule that's allowed me to be happily successfully married for 22 years. Jessica and I both adhere to that rule, and we call each other out. Hey, are you offended? You sound like you might be offended. And we recognize that I'm not the enemy, Jessica's not the enemy. The offense is the enemy.
Yeah.
So when we clear the offense and we clear the air and we go to bed when we're not mad, that allows us to wake up the next morning grateful, thankful, like David Meltzer talks about.
Yes.
With gratefulness when you go to bed and gratefulness when you wake up. And we do that. We practice that. We practice gratefulness religiously, as silly as that might sound. But that's how we do it. And that's how we've been able to raise our children and continue to work both parties, both horses pulling the cart the same direction.
That's awesome. And I'm very happy that early on in this journey, my marriage is important to me. And one of the things is, my health, and then my marriage as well. I want those things to work.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like a successful business owner, for example, and then like my marriage is going to hell. So I really don't consider that, me, myself, and Jeff, we don't consider that a successful life, probably. Right?
Well, you can have a successful life even if your marriage falls apart.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a whole lot more work.
Yeah.
A whole lot more work. And you can have success because it's based on your definition, right? So success is arbitrary. If success is making a lot of money and your marriage falls apart, you can still be successful.
For that person, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the way that Jessica and I set it up was that, you know what? We want it all. We want to have a happy marriage. We want to be best friends. We want to have a great love life. We want to have a great child raising life. We want to have a great finance life. And oh my goodness, I might get a lot of credit publicly for the success that our family has enjoyed financially and in business. But Jessica is absolutely there every single step of the way. Raising the kids, taking care of the kids, changing diapers, feeding kids, going to the grocery store, making meals, cleaning house, getting kids to sporting activities, and supporting me when my career's gone up and gone down. So I don't take any credit for the success that we have separate or apart from giving credit to my wife, because she's been there from the time that we lived on $1,500 a month. That's the truth. Jessica is 50% of any success that we enjoy. 100% believe that, because we built it from the beginning. She didn't marry a public figure. She didn't marry an Instagram YouTuber. She married a guy that worked at an auto parts store for $8 an hour. And she helped me become what people see on camera today, and I helped her become what the children see as a great mother and what I have as a great wife.
That's awesome. So I some people are like, I want to have a great marriage, but I think the easiest way to do that has worked for me is get around people that have great marriages, 20, 30, 40 years.
Totally
like
agree.
You.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I had three guys, Mitch Arjavac, Dave Eggers, and Dennis Delisle, who stood in the gap for me and showed me. They weren't going out of their way to show me. They just modeled what having a great marriage looked like. They were faithful to their wives. They were faithful to their children. They taught me about the traps and things that were guys that travel, and I travel all the time, guys that travel, some of the traps that they get into and how to get out of those traps and how to steer clear of those traps. So watching them for probably 7, 8, 9 years, it just became, and for 2 of those years, it was before I got married. So I had the modeling before we actually got to the point where we pulled the trigger and Jessica and I met and got married. And I mean, I owe those guys my life, and we'll be tagging them in this video, because Alan Gilson, Christopher Johnson, Dennis Delisle, Dave Eggers, and Mitch Arjavac were the absolute backbone of the example that I watched, seeing what a successful marriage looked like, because I didn't have that example in my own home.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Jeff Heilman on marriage with Jessica Heilman.
Jessica Heilman.
I'll put her. Is it okay to put her?
Absolutely.
I'll tag her up.
She's right.
Follow
she
her.
Would be here next to me if she could travel.
You pop the trunk, please? Thank you. Alright guys, so we just arrived at One United Nations. Hopefully we get to meet Frank Shankwitz at some point today and do the interview. I'm not sure how the event is going to be, but it's an all-day event from 8 to about 6 o'clock today, and we're about to go inside right now, so let's go. So I think this is a section where we take the pictures right here. So I'll act famous right over here. So take some pictures. So we meet again. My friend over here, you got the pink going on, I got the red tie. Kind of similar, right? How you feel?
I feel really good.
Okay, so where are we right now? We're in New York?
Right now we are in New York, which is really awesome. I love New York. And we're at City Summit.
That's it. We met in California, right?
Yes, we did.
For the first time. How's it going? You went, a week before we were in California, you did some stuff, now you're here. What's going on?
Well, I heard about the event and I DM'd Ryan and emailed him and asked him if I could come to the event or speak or be interviewed. And then he responded back to me. We hopped on the plane and we came here to New York.
That's so awesome. Last question, just because I have Frank waiting.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How is this? How are you taking all of this in?
Like being here at the event?
Yeah.
I think it's really awesome to meet amazing speakers like Frank and Gary, everybody here. It's amazing, and they're so inspirational, and they can teach me amazing things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We got Frank over there waiting. That's my next victim as an interview. All right, so thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're
Just shout out your
welcome.
information real quick, and I'm gonna put this in the vlog again.
So my email is childhungersucks@gmail.com. My name is Ever. My Instagram is @childhungersucks. And my phone number, should I give my phone number?
I mean, you did before. It's out there.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Probably. And then my card, everybody saw like the view of my card.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Awesome. So let's just take the picture, and then I'll go to Frank.
you got it.
I'm about to do the interview with Frank Shankwitz. Got my camera here, all ready. Just waiting to find like a little room over here in this hotel where it's a little bit quiet, and hopefully we can have a great interview. Frank Shankwitz is actually in the back over there talking with the person in charge. I believe his name is Ryan, for the event, because Frank Shankwitz is going to give a talk later as well. So the big moment has come. So I'm going to test you. What are we doing right now on the phone?
We are doing a interview.
The blog.
The blog. The blog.
For YouTube.
That's not the blob like an old movie. That's the blog.
Everybody, this is Frank Shankwitz, who is a founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Correct. Correct.
Right? So, very excited. We have the camera right behind this camera. We're going to do a formal interview, and then we're going to continue to enjoy the day. You have a talk later on today, right?
Yeah, I'll do the closing keynote today.
Awesome. And is it about your story, or is it something specific?
About my story.
Okay.
Yeah, all about how the Make-A-Wish Foundation was created.
Awesome.
And then I'm going to talk about the movie also.
Oh my.
So
I'm excited about
Yeah.
that. I actually got to see it at Greg's Reed's house for like 30 minutes when I slept over. It was unedited though. It was like the raw version.
you're right, and this is the fully complete
Yeah.
version now, ready for
Awesome.
distribution.
I kept it secret. He didn't allow us to record anything, so I
Yeah.
didn't show it off. But guys, we're gonna do the interview. I hope you enjoy it. It'll be linked up somewhere here. Here with Steven, former NBA player. What years and what teams did you play with?
92 to 97, Utah Jazz, San Antonio Spurs, and Seattle Supersonics.
Awesome. Steven, I don't normally do this, but you're giving me a little bit of a difficulty to kind of like angle this. I'm not used to looking up to people, but today I'll make an exception.
Neither am I.
No, but Steven, you had a great career in the NBA, professional athlete. How did your intuition play a role on your success? You know, that gut feeling? How did that play a role in your success?
I think that plays a role in everything, really. You know, and they're finding out that new scientific discovery that the heart actually has a brain, and you know, when they tell you that you don't need to think with your heart, it's actually the opposite, because you should think with your
Yeah.
heart, because your brain and your heart work together. So I think those hunches of never giving up and you're on the right path were essential, and those were those kind of gut feelings that you're talking about.
That's awesome. We're here at the City Gala. You just had an interview on stage, which was a great talk. You gave a talk on leadership.
Yeah.
How important was leadership in your career?
It was extremely important because I actually was able to witness and learn from some of the top leaders, the top 1% in leadership all over the world. And so that has influenced me and given me the ability to share and empower other leaders with the same type of leadership teaching and training that I had, and you accentuate that with my master's in leadership to add my own little kind of touch to that. So
that's awesome. You just got to meet Frank Shankwith, one of the founders of Make-A-Wish. I interviewed him earlier as well. How did that feel?
Yeah, he's cool, amazing story, and that kind of servant leadership is what I believe in, giving back and really leaving a legacy of making this earth better for other people. So awesome. I definitely appreciate that.
And where do we follow you on Instagram, website, everything?
Website is StephenHoward.com. Stevens with the PH, S-T-P-H-E-N, and then on Instagram, Stephen Howard, and on Twitter at Stephen_speaks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen, for your time.
Thank you, Carlos.
Here with Britt, who's a social media influencer. How are you, Britt?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Having a lot of fun. I was able to steal you for 2 minutes. Britt, what are you currently doing right now?
So right now I work with brands and companies. They pay me to create content for them and promote their products and their brands online on my online platform. And then I'm also an influence to those who follow me and look up to me, and so I take that very seriously. And so I actually do a lot of public speaking for women empowerment, and then also for victims of abuse. And I'm currently a social media coach as well for different brands and companies, and so I help people use social media to magnify themselves in the very best way possible.
That's awesome, Britt. It sounds like you add a lot of value to your following. How important is adding value to your following, as opposed to getting and not giving?
So that's a good question. So I am very, very big on this because a lot of people in our industry, since it's so new, are more about the getting and not really about the value. And so they're more about how much they're getting paid, and they don't really care too much about what they're actually going to be recommending or the influence that they're having. And so I think it's really, really important for us to make sure that we are following a very strict guideline as far as how we do that. And so the values that I provide, I do very seriously, and I do it only because I want to give, to be completely honest. I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't see the point to being on social media unless I can help other people.
I definitely understand, because it's like a huge scale that you can use social media.
Yes.
And if you use it for something good, as opposed to twerking or whatever the case is.
Yeah, there's lots of different things out there. Yeah.
Or whatever, but it's truly amazing what you're doing. I would love
Thank
to
you.
add all your information here.
Yes,
Just
yeah.
shoot. Go ahead.
So my name is Britt Lamore. You can find me on Instagram. That's my main platform. It's Britt_Lamore, BRITLAMUR. And the same for my website is BrittLamore.com. And you can contact me from either of those places. And those are probably my main sources of contact. The best way to get in touch with me is through email. So
Awesome. So we'll definitely put that over here. And thank you so much for your time, Britt.
yes, thank you.
Dr. James Dentley. James, I gotta tell you something, okay? Out of all the speakers so far today who are trying to sell their programs and stuff, you did something very different that I want to say, and it was connecting on emotion. When you were talking, you hit everybody here, especially me, okay? Can you kind of talk about that?
Well, Carlos, first of all, it's an honor to be here with you. It's an honor for you to want me on your video to talk to people that you know that plug into you. Because your reputation is there as well, So I'm honored by that. And I'll tell you, the first thing is just to be fully self-expressed, to know that everybody has a voice, everybody has a story, and everybody needs to be heard. And there's people out there, even if you're watching this, for you and everybody else, that there's people that can only hear you. It's only your voice they can hear. Only your story can impact their life. And we don't do it because we might be stuck or where we are or feeling that we're not where we want to be. That's okay. We're good enough and we're great enough to start where we are right here, right now. You do that and impact somebody's life, that's something money can't buy.
That's so awesome. And you also spoke about feeling and how your intuition comes into play.
Yeah.
You're not just there speaking, kind of like the gym. You know, when you're working out, you're not just going through the motion. You gotta put your mind into it.
Yeah.
So how has that affected your career?
Well, first of all, you have to learn to trust your instincts until your instincts trust you. Then you can become so intuitive. And that's what my book is 5 frequencies of high performance. And that's what frequency is. So once you tap into that station, if I want to tap into 106.3, then FM, the AM doesn't even exist. Once you tap there, you're there. The key is to know that it's available to you and how that you can access it. Because all of us have been at a point in our life where we've been able to be in that zone, but we got to know how to tap into that zone. And then we can own it everywhere we go.
Yeah. It's the founder of Uggs,
Good.
right?
Brian Smith. There you
go. So I tried to get Brian Smith on camera at Secret Knock in California, but he was busy a little bit. So it's okay.
Yeah.
We're here in New York City,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful for your time.
Thank you.
Brian, you have a great story with Uggs. Can you talk about really quickly in 30 seconds, if you can do it, the marketing that you did before and then how you fixed it?
Okay, in 30 seconds. Okay. Well, I'd been using a lot of models and posed them on the beach wearing boots, and ran it for a couple of years and was getting nowhere with the marketing. And then I was having a beer with one of my surf shop retailers, and he called all these little kids out to say, hey, what do you think of Ugg? And they all said, oh man, those Uggs are so fake. And, you know, those models, they can't surf. And that was the beginning of me understanding marketing and advertising, because you never advertise your product. You have to advertise an image that people want to be part of. So I got a couple of young pro surfers that I sponsored, and I just ran shots of them walking to the beach and walking back home, you know, Black's Beach and Trestles and really famous surf spots. And when I ran those ads, the sales just like went 10 times what they'd been previously, because I got the authenticity, and the kids wanted to really feel like they were part of that image. And so that was me realizing then how to advertise, and that's really the beginning of me understanding the sales and advertising part, which made Ugg such a big billion-dollar brand. You know?
Wow. Just because we're short on time, Brian, how has your intuition, you know, that gut feeling that you have, played a role on your success?
All the time. Yeah, I just have to follow my instincts, you know. And you know, when I came to America, I didn't come to start Uggs. I came to look for a business to take back to Australia. But I found that there were no sheepskin boots in America, and so it was that instinct to get out and move and look around that the opportunities come. Because once you start out on a path, all these opportunities come at you, and if you have a vision of what you want to do, you'll start seeing things that relate to that vision. Whereas if you don't have a vision, they're still there. They'll be invisible. You won't see them. So it's a really important piece of, you know, how our brains interact with the universe. You know, you must get started first.
That's truly amazing. Thank you, Brian, for your time.
Okay, my friend. Nice to be with you again.